It's a frosty morning this morning. I don't mind days like this though. I knew I was going to get asked the question whether the Pocket 2 or the Action 3 was going to be the best camera for vlogging, and I kind of did a comparison before I had the issue with the Action 3, but since I got the new one and since the 10-bit firmware update, I don't know. So in this video I'm going to get some footage and then I'm going to tell you reasons why you might want to get the Pocket 2 over the Action 3, but overall which camera is going to be best in terms of quality, audio, video footage, that kind of thing, and which one you might prefer to get. Okay, so before I get too into it, let me tell you a little bit about the specs. So in terms of the sensor size, they're both identical. Both cameras have a 1/1.7 inch sensor, but where the Pocket 2 is better in terms of low light situations is the fact that it's got an aperture of f1.8, whereas the Action 2 has an aperture of f2.8. So in low light situations, the Pocket 2 should do better, and I have noticed that when you're indoors or you're filming in a situation where there's not a lot of light, then you kind of have to push up your ISO a lot more on the Action 3 to get it to be usable, but then you're introducing more noise, whereas with the Pocket 2 you don't have to push your ISO up quite as far because you have that wider aperture. The Action 3 shoots up to 4K 120 and the Pocket 2 shoots up to 4K 60. So if you want to get that really cinematic slow motion footage, then the Action 3 is going to be better in that scenario. But you can still do it in 4K 60, but 120 is just, it gives it that really nice slow motion, smooth look. In terms of stabilization, obviously the Pocket 2 has a gimbal, so there's no worry about it failing in low light, where the Action 3 would if you don't have optimal low light. The other thing is, with the Pocket 2 you can use ND filters without having to use any additional accessories, whereas with the Action 3 you would have to use a gimbal because the stabilization won't work with a slower shutter speed, so that's just something to bear in mind. I will have a video about using ND filters and a gimbal with the Action 3, so subscribe if you haven't, because that will come out soon. So I've just been literally walking around and getting some footage with both cameras, and so far I feel like the Action 3 might be better. I've just set my EV meter on the Pocket 2 to -1.3 because when you shoot in direct sunlight it's just so blown out shooting in the normal colour profile, and in comparison to the Action 3, obviously the Action 3 is not really doing that, so it's maintaining a lot of the colour and the dynamic range. So interesting. Both cameras have an HDR feature, but honestly the Pocket 2 one crops in so much. So if you're vlogging and you've got your arm out and use an HDR mode, you've literally just got a floating head unless you put it on an extended selfie stick or use the wide angle lens. But even then, with the wide angle lens, it's still really cropped in, and you can only shoot up to 2.7K anyway. Whereas with the Action 3, you can shoot up to 4K 100 FPS, and as far as I saw, it didn't crop in, but I'll have to double check that. I feel like you already know which one I'm going to say is the better one, but let me get back to my laptop and see on a bigger screen, because I might be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, we'll see. Whilst I remember, I just checked the battery life for both cameras. They both started out at 100%, and the Action 3 is on 73% and the Pocket 2 is on 35%.
Okay, so now that I've had a chance to look at the footage better, I think that they both do really well. They're both good, but I think that the Action 3 kind of handles highlights a bit better. The Pocket 2 seems to get blown out a lot easier than the Action 3 does. And also the Action 3 is a lot wider than the Pocket 2. So if you want to shoot with a wide field of view with the Pocket 2, you have to attach the wide angle lens, which can sometimes be a bit of a pain, but also it's not quite as wide as the Action 3 anyway. So there is that trade-off with the Pocket 2. The other thing is the screen size. The Pocket 2 is so small, and this is something that I've had not an issue with, but it's just one of those things that would have been nice if it was bigger. But with the Action 3, you don't have that problem. Forgetting about the back screen, which is great because it's massive, but the front screen when you're talking to yourself is so much bigger than the Pocket 2, so you can see yourself a lot better, you can frame your shot better, you can make sure that you're correctly exposed, and it's just a lot better having a bigger screen.
Quick audio test. So this audio is coming from the Pocket 2 and this audio is coming from the Action 3. I have no idea in terms of a comparison which one sounds better because this is the first time that I'm actually doing this, but just to give you an idea of which one's which, again, Pocket 2, Action 3, there's no external microphone attached to either of the cameras, so it is just the audio that's coming straight from each of the camera's microphones. So this is what it sounds like. It's not really a windy day, so yeah, the wind isn't going to affect it. But yeah, this is just the audio test.
When it comes to the audio, both of them sound great straight out of the camera. Both are really usable from the camera microphones. You don't necessarily need to have an external microphone, but you will get better audio in most scenarios if you use an external microphone, especially if it's really windy, where you can actually attach a dead cat to your external microphone to cut out the wind noise, because using wind reduction on either of the cameras isn't great and it doesn't really isolate your voice in that way. But I do find that the Pocket 2 actually sounds bassier than the Action 3, but in terms of like background noise as well, I feel like the Pocket 2 picks up more background noise than the Action 3 does. But if you apply something like a voice isolation in Final Cut, then that kind of reduces it a bit and it doesn't really distort the voice in either of the cameras either. So that's just something to note. But I don't know, it depends. I guess it depends on your voice and which one you prefer the sound of. But I think for clarity, the Action 3 sounds better. And then if you like a bassier tone, then the Pocket 2 sounds better. In terms of colour, so the colour profiles using D-Cinelike and the normal colour profile, I think they both look pretty much the same with the normal colour profile, but I feel like with D-Cinelike, the Pocket 2 looks more natural, and I feel like the skin tones of the Action 3 don't look quite as natural as the Pocket 2. So I feel like when it comes to the colours, the Pocket 2 kind of wins. It just has more of a, it looks more like a mirrorless camera, whereas the Action 3 looks more like an action camera, which, you know, it is an action camera. So I just feel like the Pocket 2, yeah, it just looks better to me in terms of how I like footage to look. And in that respect, it actually matches better to something like a mirrorless camera or a DSLR, just because of the way the footage looks. With the HDR, like I said earlier, both of them shoot in HDR, but because the Pocket 2 crops in so much, it's just the Action 2 wins in that respect, because there's no crop on the Action 2 with HDR mode, but the Pocket 2 just crops in so much that it's just basically, I feel it's unusable unless you've got the Pocket 2 on a tripod and it's further away from you. So yeah, the HDR mode definitely goes to the Action 3. And then lastly, in terms of battery life, it's a no-brainer. The Action 3 just blows the Pocket 2 out of the water. So if you're wanting to vlog all day, you don't have to worry about batteries, because one, they're replaceable, and two, one battery lasts for such a long time. I was out filming with this, and I did the video previously about the GoPro Hero 11 and this together, and I was filming for a good couple of hours and the Action 3 battery still wasn't dead. And then I did the video between these two, and the battery, basically I had, let's say, 12% battery after filming for about 4 hours. Obviously filming on and off, but the battery life was just, it just lasted so long, and this was basically dead. The GoPro was basically dead. So the Action 3 battery, I can definitely say is incredible, and if you get the adventure combo, then you obviously get the charging case, and then you also get extra batteries, so you literally have no problems filming all day with the Action 3, so definitely wins in terms of battery life. So in terms of which one to get, I hope this video has helped you out somewhat, and obviously there's potentially going to be a Pocket 3 coming out, and it was rumoured to come out in November, but I think with the issues with the Action 3 it might have pushed it along, but who knows, maybe it was always due to come out later on. No, I did not know that did that. But hopefully the Pocket 3 has a lot of improvements on the Pocket 2, because Pocket 2 is still a great camera, but I think, yeah, I don't know. I would probably say the Action 3 for now. For now. Yeah. But yeah, I hope you found the video useful. If you did, do give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos about the Action 3, because I have a few more coming up. And also the Hero 11, also have more videos for that coming up, so subscribe for that too. But thanks for watching, and catch you next time.